What's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back another video today, and the New Orleans Saints have signed wide receiver James Washington, who has been in the NFL for 5 seasons and spent last season with the Dallas Cowboys, but only played 2 games. But before then, has been with the Steelers from 2018 to 2021 in 4 seasons. Was a really solid wide receiver with the Pittsburgh Steelers and had some really decent seasons there. Now Dallas, he hurt himself. He got injured in preseason or training camp, and he was out for like 8 to 10 weeks or 6 to 10 weeks, whatever it was. He came back, like week 10, week 11, whatever it was. I think it was week 11, week 12. He came back, played 2 games of the season. Then around week 13, week 14, the Cowboys signed T.Y. Hilton, who had not played at all that year, and they needed to waive someone with T.Y. Hilton coming in, and they decided to waive or release James Washington, who only played 2 games with the team, but was an efficient wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 4 years before that. He played 2 games with the Cowboys in 2022, only got 1 target, 0 yards at all in the 2022 seasons. But we're not here to focus on the 2022 season. We're going to be talking about his 4 years with Pittsburgh and his 4 years with Pittsburgh from 2018 to 2021. And then we're going to be talking about, what this signing means for the Saints. So 2021 with the Steelers, 15 games, 2 starts, 44 targets, 24 receptions, 285 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns. And then his longest catch was 42 yards. 2020, 16 games, 7 starts, 56 targets, 30 receptions, 392 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 2020. Then 2019, 15 games, 10 starts, 80 targets, 44 receptions, 735 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. And his longest reception was 79 yards. Then he had, in 2018, his rookie year, 14 games, 6 starts, 38 targets, 16 receptions, 217 yards, and 1 touchdown. So his years in Pittsburgh, in 4 years in Pittsburgh, he played in 60 games in Pittsburgh with 25 starts, 218 targets with 114 receptions, and 1,630 yards, with a total of 11 touchdowns with the Steelers. And 70 of his catches were first downs for the Steelers. And his longest was 79. So was really solid with the Steelers in 4 years. And, was not a full-time starter. He started every now and then, but did really solid as a backup wide receiver. And that's what he could be to the Saints, or he could be, I could see him maybe being as a starting wide receiver, possibly. If you view the Saints wide receiver room right now, you got Michael Thomas, you got Chris Olave. That third wide receiver for the Saints is not really for sure. Traquan Smith might be the third. And then James Washington is the 4th guy in the room. And then I think they drafted A.T. Perry in the 6th round in the draft. So those are kind of the top guys in the wide receiver room for the Saints. But I like what they've done in this offseason. They've added in a lot of weapons for Derek Carr coming in. They kept Michael Thomas, who, let's be honest, last year he played 2 or 3 games. When he was healthy in those games, he was a beast. And if he stays healthy next season, which I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be very hard for him to stay healthy all year, just with all the injury problems he has had all year. Last couple years, all year last year he was injured. He's been injured in the past. But if he can stay healthy for a majority of the 2023 season, and Chris Olave is healthy and he takes a jump from his rookie year, and maybe you can get Kamara on the field despite his legal troubles, because you have a great running back core if Kamara is healthy and playing. Obviously, Kamara's not injured. Well, Kamara's had injury problems, but It's still very uncertain what the Saints are going to do with Kamara. But if Kamara stays, you have Kamara at the starting running back, and you have your two other running backs, backup running back Jamal Williams, who had like 18 touchdowns, I think he led the, I think he did. Did he lead the touch? He was the best. He was definitely the best end zone and red zone running back last season in the NFL. But I think he did lead. No, Austin Eckler led. I think he was second in rushing touchdowns in the NFL last year. Austin Eckler was one. I think two was Jamal Williams. I'm not too sure on that though. Added in Jamal Williams as the backup running back. And then the third round, with like the 71st overall pick, the Saints selected Kendre Miller, who was the TCU running back and had a really phenomenal year at TCU last year. So you have three really solid running backs, two if Kamara is not on the team. And then you have two really young, or not young. Michael Thomas is, I guess, a little young, but he's played at the star level. Hasn't been there in a couple years, but if Michael Thomas is healthy with Derek Carr throwing him the ball, an efficient quarterback throwing him the ball this year, and Michael Thomas stays healthy, you got yourself a good quarterback there. Throwing Derek compared to Jameis last year, or Taysom Hill. Well, Jameis was the only starter to throw to. Jameis was the only starter to throw to Michael Thomas last year because Jameis got hurt. Jameis did get hurt, but Michael got hurt. So I think Jameis was the only starter that Michael Thomas caught the ball to. But, with what I think Derek Carr's a huge upgrade over Jameis Winston. And, so I think Michael Thomas should be better if he's healthy. And Chris Olave was outstanding in his rookie year. I think with a new quarterback, a better quarterback, because you remember most of the season Andy Dalton was their quarterback. So Chris Olave, he had all sides of it. Winston threw Olave the ball, and then Dalton did. So he mainly played with Dalton last year, Olave. So that's a huge upgrade for Olave. Winston's is an all right quarterback. Carr is just a little bit of an upgrade over Winston because Winston is a solid quarterback. But compare Carr to Dalton, that's a huge upgrade. So I think Olave should take a huge jump too. So you got those two guys at the wide receiver, and then Traquan Smith, James Washington, A.T. Perry, and then you signed Foster Moreau at tight end a couple days ago, or almost last week. It's almost been a week. They signed Foster Moreau, who played with Derek Carr in Las Vegas. They had a really good really good chemistry on the field. Derek Carr loved throwing the ball to him in Vegas. And you also have Juwan Johnson, who was great at tight end last year. And then you have a decent defense. So the offense is looking good for New Orleans. They've added in Kendre Miller and Jamal Williams at the running backs. They've added in James Washington at the wide receiver. Kept Michael Thomas, and hopefully a healthy Michael Thomas. Have Chris Olave going into his second year with a better quarterback with Derek Carr compared to Andy Dalton throwing the ball last year. So not only you got the jump of him going into his second year, but a better quarterback throwing the ball. Not as bad as I think what Garrett Wilson went through last year with the Jets, but it was bad. So I think Olave should be better. I think Thomas, if he's healthy, he's great. And then have two really solid tight ends with Juwan Johnson and Foster Moreau, and then the three running backs, and the defense is solid. So Saints, I think right now should be the favorites to win the NFC South. So I love this signing for the Saints. That's the video. If you guys enjoy them, your thoughts, and peace out.